Now, inside of our classes inside of our classes folder, let's create a new file called helper.php. And inside of the helper, obviously added the bracket at the end. Okay, inside of this helper class, open in PHP tag class helper. And the first method we're going to create inside of a helper class will be called public static function with the name file extension. And we pass the file name as the parameter. What we do first is check if the file name isn't empty, so if is an empty file. And now file equals explode with the dot as a separator file. So if there are any other dots, we're obviously going to create the array. And now we need to return is an empty file array pop file, otherwise null. Array pop function basically takes the last item from the array and returns it. So obviously the last item in the file name after the last dot will be the extension. So that's what we basically want. Otherwise, if obviously file array is empty, meaning there obviously wasn't anything, but it wouldn't go through the first condition in the first place because there would have to be something. Even if there wasn't any dot, it would put just the file name into this array. But anyway, that's checking if it isn't empty just to make sure. If it isn't empty, returns the last item of the array, otherwise returns null. So this is the first method. Now let's go for the next method, which is called get class. So next, public static function get class. And we're going to be, again, passing through the parameter with the name of the file. So if we scroll down a little bit, now we check again if is an empty file. Then we get the extension first. So extension equals self, because it's obviously that the previous method is static. Actually, all of these methods inside of the helper class will be static. So self, 2 colons, file, extension, and we pass in the file name as parameter. Now we are using switch statement with the extension as a parameter and a case PDF. We start with the PDF will return PDF. Now you might be wondering, why am I actually bothered with all this rather than returning extension straight away? Well, I may only want to display several extensions. I may not be, bothered with some of the extensions like exe or anything like this. First of all, exe shouldn't be on the server anyway. But there are some things like, for instance, JPEG, JPG, and JPEG will also use the same icon. So I need to combine them together rather than just checking if it is in an array and so on. Because I could put obviously all these extensions in array. I could simply echo the extension to get the class name. But as I'm saying, we will only display several icons. Some of them might be combined. Let's say 2 extensions, the same ones will use the same icon. So let's continue, and I'm going to show you actually what's happening in just a second. So case JPG, and then case JPEG, which is what Internet Explorer needs to have when you're uploading, for instance, JPEG files, because otherwise it doesn't understand JPG extension. I mean, the older versions of Internet Explorer, because version 9 obviously is a little bit more clever than the previous ones. So if that happens, then we want to return JPG as the class name. Then we have case PNG, and this one will return simply PNG. Then we will have another extension, which is case GIF, and this one will return GIF as a class name. Next one will be case, I also want to allow doc extension, and the new doc extension, which is case docs X at the end. Again, we can combine both of them and return the same class name, so it's going to be doc. After this one, we'll put case CSS break, and the return will be CSS. After CSS, we have case PHP, and it returns PHP. It's quite a few of them. Obviously, you can define as many as you want. I'm going to define just a few here, but you're free to do as many as you want, as many icons as you have, and so on. So now we have case JS. For JS, we're going to return JS class, and then we will have a default one, which will simply return file class. And this is where I ask you, obviously, to make sure that you get this icon for the file inside of the images for any other extensions which we haven't defined here. So this is going to be like a general icon for it. Okay, so that's our get class method. Let's move to the next video because there's another method which we need to create inside of our helper.php file.